Happy Monday. It's the CHGO Blackhawks podcast. It's Mailbag Monday. That's exciting. Happy August.
Oh, my God.
Yes,
how did that happen?
Well, July went really fast because the Hawks kept giving us news. And let's hope that continues.
It was busiest month ever.
It really
Super
was.
busy 31 days.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Boy, Mailbag Monday, we got a bunch of questions in the comments already. We appreciate that. But we got to tell you first, we're presented by PointsBet.
Yes, we are.
Use that promo code CHGO when you sign up, and you'll get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. You're also going to get, with a $50 or more first-time deposit, that free CHGO membership, free T-shirt, all that good stuff. You get access to our Discord. And guess what? The Discord folks get priority on Mailbag Monday, trademark pending. So, before we get to our bursting sacks o-mail,
Yikes.
we have a little bit of Hawks news. Luke Richardson has filled out his staff completely. He has hired Derek Plant, former Blackhawks legend. Who could forget his 17 games with the Blackhawks? Mostly known for the Buffalo Sabres. That's where the best years of his career were. But he was a Hawks development coach from, I think, 2010 to 2015? Or was it
2015 to 2020.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I got that
development
backwards,
coach,
yeah.
and then took a hiatus to go to Minnesota Duluth for, I think, 2 seasons, and then came back.
So Derek
Is now
Plant
back.
is in the fold, and the coaching staff is complete. So exciting stuff.
A couple little fun tidbits about Derek Plant before we get into our bursting sacks. So far, as Jay has said this morning, we have bursting sacks and full staffs.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very
It's a great way to start a Monday.
very phallic month of August we're getting off to right here. But anywho,
It's a great first
back
first
in
day.
the Blackhawks acquired Derek Plant back in 2000 from the Dallas Stars, along with Kevin Dean. So I always find stuff like that's fun. Derek Plant, Kevin Dean, both traded to the Blackhawks from the Stars in 2000, both now assistant coaches with the Blackhawks. And as pointed out to me by Dan Vatch, the great PR guy for the Chicago Steel, Derek Plant's son, Zam, that's his name. Zam. Sounds like a Batman. Batman just punched the Joker again. Zam, Z-A-M Plant, is a Pittsburgh Penguins draftee as of just a few weeks ago, and he played for the Steel, the Chicago Steel, this past season. Will be back this year, so there's another reason to go see the Steel.
There are many reasons to see the Steel, but yes, that's another one. I don't know. There's not a ton to react to on that, but some more news. The staff is filling out, so
A 3-man staff. I mean, usually it's 2 as
4.
far as assistants.
Or 3. You're right.
Yeah.
For assistants.
it's
I mean,
Derek King, Kevin Dean, Derek Plant are the assistants. Jimmy Waits, the goalie coach. Matt Meacham is the video coach. There's your
All
full
under
staff.
So that kind of maybe
Gotcha.
tells me, like, hey, I mean, typically it's 2 assistants, the goalie and the video coach. So that kind of tells me, like, hey, Luke, why don't you do us a favor and keep Derek around, you know?
Director of morale,
So,
Derek King.
yeah. Like, apparently Derek's have to be,
Yeah,
got to have 2
Derek's are very popular.
2 Derek minimum.
2
on
Dereks.
the-
Wow.
There we go. So,
exciting.
yeah,
It's-
coaching staffs.
It's great.
Cool.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing to be, as many. It's very much like Kyle Davidson's crew of assistant GMs and all those things. Like, it's good to have a lot of people chiming in, especially someone with his experience, both coaching and playing. The more eyes on a thing you can get, the better, especially for a first-time head coach. Now, look, if you're bringing in, prime Scotty Bowman to be your head coach, you probably don't need a bunch of voices. A guy clearly has the experience, but nothing wrong with bringing in some trusted companions to help you get through that first year.
It's a little different than when, like, Jeremy Colleton was told he had to have Mark Crawford on his staff.
Right, yeah.
Where you were basically like, well, here's the adult in the room, and here's the guy that's going to replace him the second we launch him into the sun, which didn't go that way, but that's what everybody thought. So it's a little different. Instead of, like, the the team telling him who he needs to have a coach, and then him getting to choose at least 2 of the guys of the 3. But I'm sure Derek King was once Luke Richardson talked to him, was probably like, yeah, I could use this guy.
Yeah, why not?
Probably a little bit too to the connection that he was at Minnesota Duluth, and they have a couple of prospects like Wyatt Kaiser, Connor Kelly, and Dominic James that all came through that program in that time frame. It probably has a little bit of a connection to that too, as maybe some prospects that they're like, hey, let's have a familiar voice around for these guys.
Eyes to the future.
Yeah.
Instead of the year right in front of you. Welcome change.
It's a different perspective, that's for sure.
By the way, speaking of Mark Crawford, we got to find Mark Crawford. That would be a fun guest to talk to. That dude's got
Mark
stories.
Crawford.
And if you watch the Unrivaled documentary on the Red Wings and Avalanche rivalry, him talking about his confrontation with Scotty Bowman is just awesome. He's like, I will be forever remembered as that guy. Even though I wasn't really that guy. It was just that moment I lost my mind. And he said he sent a picture of himself like wild-eyed and screaming to his dentist because you can like see all of his teeth. Because the cameraman was right between the 2 benches and he's like just taking shots of Crawford as he's freaking out on Bowman. But I would love to hear what he thinks of everything going on with the Hawks and how things went the last few years. We got to find him. Mark Crawford, find us.
Yeah.
All right, should we tear open our sacks?
Let's open the bag.
Ugh.
What? Oh, you know what, Greg? Grow up.
I'm
talking about mail.
Mail sacks.
Talking about mail
sacks.
Here.
All right.
I don't know how that could possibly be misinterpreted.
Jeez, come on.
All right, McBacon starts us off from Discord again. Become a member at allchgo.com, and you'll get access to our new user-friendly, non-intrusive, non-ridiculous Discord page. He says, with what they have right now, what may the top 2 lines look like? Do you think they will play well together, or do you think they can fight each other for the puck? Mario, you did a pretty good job a couple weeks ago. Was it maybe last week, 2 weeks ago, of kind of laying out your lines, and I kind of liked where your head was at. So why don't you lay out your philosophy? And
you can see that at allchgo.com. I kind of took a stab at what the projected lineup could be, given what we know of the roster as it is right now. I think the top 2 lines, you're looking at a combination of Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane, obviously in there. I think Max Domi and Andreas Athanasiou will find their way in there as well. I would assume Lucas Reichel is going to get into the top 6, either as a center or a wing. But I think if the Blackhawks want to see him as a center, I think they'll try and get him. I put him on a line with Kane and Domi. I think that's a good matchup for Reichel to kind of flourish, play with some speedy, skilled players. I believe I also had Taylor Radish in there as well, just because of the chemistry that he seemed to have built in the short time that he played with Jonathan Toews. I think that worked. A player that I think could also kind of sneak their way into that top 6 rotation is Tyler Johnson. He had some stints being in the top 6. He started last season with DeBrincat and Kane, and that seemed to work for a few games before he got hurt. So I think that's someone who's versatile and can move around the lineup, and wouldn't be surprised if maybe he got a second line center position to begin the year and see where things go. But I think those would be the guys that I would say would make up the top 6, and pretty much interchangeable between those lines, I would say.
I'm really curious how comfortable the Hawks are going to be having Lucas Reichel start the season as a center. And look, if they see him as a center, that's what they should do.
That's pretty much what he did in Rockford all year.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, most of his games in the NHL, he was primarily a center. So we'll see if he can develop as a center. It's easier to move from center to wing than the other way around if that needs to happen. But I don't think I think that they can learn a lot of lessons from what happened with Kirby Dach in development and pigeonholing a player into a position. If it's not going to work out at center with Reichel, just move him. Don't force him to be a center if it's not going to work out.
Yeah. The other question McBacon had is, do you think they'll play well together, or do you think they'll fight each other for the puck? Nah, that's not really there's not a lot of puck hogging going on. It kind of can't really do that in hockey.
I think a lot of times Blackhawks teams since the Cup run, where you had basically 5 players on the ice who you trusted with the puck pretty much at all times. Since those Cup runs, a lot of times players have deferred to, let me just give the puck to Patrick Kane and see what happens. I think that I don't think that's Kane saying, give me the puck, I'm going to do this by myself. I think a lot of it has become, hey, let me get it to Kane or let me get it to Toews and just someone do something.
If anything, the problem has been the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Not greedy enough with the puck.
Right.
So I don't foresee that being an issue. Not with this lineup.
All right, next one comes from Discord as well. USM0506 says, during the Cubs rebuilds, we had the no hit streak to look forward to on a game-by-game basis. What would the Blackhawks equivalent be? Boy, I don't know. So if you don't know, the Cubs have like a really long record of not being no hit.
And then they got no hit and then traded for the guy that no hit him like a couple weeks later.
Yes.
It's a good strategy.
It was like a couple days. It was Cole Hamels,
Yeah.
right? And then like his next start was for the Cubs.
I believe
after
that's
that
correct.
no-hitter.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really know.
Yeah,
This is the perfect reason to sign Phil Kessel because he's got that consecutive game streak going on. He could set the all-time record.
I mean, is it just a no not being shut out streak?
Well, I'm sure that was not a thing because didn't they get shut out like a bunch last year?
Well, yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen.
I thought
That
like the
won't last very
no
long.
goalie goal allowed streak, but they gave up one they gave up one the Pecorino a couple years ago.
Yeah.
You know, I guess you could keep track of the Patrick Kane record watch.
Yeah, it's basically just accomplishments, right? Like
You can't do
Milestone.
games without a too many men on the ice penalty because that's never goes past 0.
yeah.
And maybe it'll be different.
We could come up with something. We could think about that. Find some weird,
That'll be our
funky stat.
project.
You know, did the Blackhawks get a power play goal from a defenseman? That's a streak that's
There you
still
go.
going.
That's the streak. That's the
the
streak.
one.
That's the one.
The streak of
think
games without
There
a.
used to be a Twitter account back in the day that it was funny but also sad. It was, did Brian Bickle score tonight? And every tweet was just no. So we could do, did the Blackhawks defenseman get a power play goal
man.
tonight? No.
Oh, boy.
There
All
we
right,
go.
one more from the
Poor
Discord from Sunghyung86. Realistically, is Jonathan Toews more likely to finally retire or continue playing somewhere else after his final current contract year
I
finishes?
love how he's saying finally
season?
retire. Like we all been just waiting for him to retire.
Yeah. There is part of me that feels like Jonathan Toews doesn't have a lot of interest in going and signing to be a third-line center somewhere. I don't know. He is the ultra competitor, but much like we were talking about Duncan Keith on our episode last Friday, that competitiveness can also like frustrate you as a player because Duncan Keith knew he wasn't the same guy, and just being average, or in Duncan Keith's case, probably slightly below average, was not acceptable for him, so he just walked away.
It's the personal standard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Could Duncan Keith have played till he was 40 or 45 years old? Maybe, considering his level of fitness, but he wasn't willing to sacrifice the quality of play, and that's sort of the question for Jonathan Toews for me. You also have the factor of myriad concussions that he has suffered over his career. He also had whatever happened where he missed the season 2 years ago. Health has been a concern for Toews. So I wonder if he's just wants to take that next step of his career. And, you know, this weekend we saw a Patrick Kane rumor floating around that was debunked. This stuff is fluid because I truly don't think either guy really knows what they want to do right now. I think they're kind of doing a wait and see thing. I think they're both going to start the season with the Hawks, but with Toews specifically, I would say, if I'm handicapping it myself, I'm saying 50-50 he retires or signs somewhere else. I don't think it's a given he's playing beyond this season.
Yeah, I think the interview that he did with Mark Lazarus for The Athletic, you really saw kind of how Toews has everything kind of laid out on the table, and he's just considering a little bit of each option, whether it's, you know, stay on for the rebuild, retire, accept a trade, and move on in his career with another team. He really doesn't seem definitive in one direction. I would say if he's not traded this season, it would be poor for the Blackhawks to lose Toews for nothing if he does sign with another team. But I would agree with Jay's comments about, I don't really see Toews just accepting a lower role with another team just because he wants to continue playing. I think if he really, really wants to continue playing, I think it'll either be with Chicago and he's bought into the rebuild, or it's retirement.
Yeah,
if it's not a trade to a contender.
Yeah, I agree. I think we won't know the answer to that till Jonathan Toews doesn't know the answer to that. It's going to be how he performs this season. If he's performing good and he's up to his standards, then I can see him playing beyond this season, whether it's here or elsewhere. But if he has another tough year and he struggles and he's not feeling like he thinks he should feel, then I could realistically see him saying, "Don't trade me. This is it. I'm going to call it a career here." And we'll see what happens. I think we'll get a better idea of what may happen by like Thanksgiving. Based on his play.
Based on where the
team's
at.
I don't think a significant bounce back season is out of the question for him either.
No.
Yeah, I think we saw in the back half of last year, it looked like he kind of got his legs underneath him a little bit more. Obviously it took him some time to get his body right, but from what he said in the interview, it seems like his body's in a better position now than it was last summer, which is great to hear. And I think that was probably one of the biggest hindrances to the start of the season was just he was fighting himself.
Yeah.
I want to address something going on in the chat. They're asking about Jimmy Waite and if he was on the 2010 Blackhawks. No. Stefan Waite, his brother, was the goalie coach for the
until
2010
2013.
Hawks. Yes.
Yeah, Jimmy Waite didn't get that gig until the 2013-14 season.
So just wanted to make sure that was addressed. Let's tackle a question here from the chat as well. Somebody was asking about, there it is, Yexer. What is a realistic return for Toews if he does well by the deadline? And could the Blackhawks get rid of Seth Jones? Let's do the Toews one first. Like we were just saying, I think it's all dependent on if he's Jonathan Toews from 2021-22, you're looking mid pick.
Maybe a mid-round pick, yeah. Because you're retaining half of his salary.
Yes,
so
you're going to retain, which is
you'll get.
Don't get hung up on salary retention either. It's a non-issue. It's
not going to be a problem.
It doesn't matter.
Especially at the deadline, teams get creative. You could even, retain part of it and another team retains another part of it. Like it's
right.
Yeah.
I don't see that being a major hindrance at the deadline.
What if he does have a significant bounce back season?
I wouldn't put anything greater than a second round pick.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
To me,
I think
that's ceiling.
If they get a second for him, I'm thrilled.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And how crazy is that to say?
Yeah.
An all-time Mount Rushmore Blackhawk. If we get a second-round pick, I'll be happy.
But then again, you never know. You got the 13th overall pick for Kirby Dach. So, I mean, yes, there's way more upside there, potentially. Right. But, we never, we scoffed at the reports that Brendan Hagel would get 2 first-round picks.
But you know
one
what,
first-round pick, and then he got 2. So, as I've said many times, never underestimate the stupidity of an NHL GM at the trade deadline.
Just think about it, though. Like, Toews has a better season. Not saying he's dynasty Jonathan Toews again, but let's say at the deadline he's got like 20 goals, something around there, 15, 20.
Man. Yeah.
Towards the end of the year, and he's winning faceoffs and killing penalties, and he's been healthy.
Yeah.
And you got a bunch of contenders that are like, for a rental to bring in Jonathan Toews to anchor us down the middle, you could do a hell of a lot worse than that. And then if a bidding war becomes a thing, then you're talking. This is best case scenario.
Teams get desperate.
Yeah.
Injuries happen. There's, you never know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, go look at like what a guy like Jerome McGinley got at those trade deadlines at the tail end of his career. Not a whole lot. So you gotta remember that a GM is gonna pay for what you can get out of Jonathan Toews this postseason, not for what he did in the 2010s.
When the Hawks traded for Antoine Vermette in 2015, they gave up defenseman Klaus Dahlbeck, who was like borderline NHL player, and a 2015 first-round pick. A low first.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but 2015 Antoine Vermette is better than 2022 Jonathan Toews.
Probably.
So, yeah, I mean, if they could get a mid-grade prospect and an upper-level pick, I think that's great. That would be awesome. But we'll we'll see what happens with that.
Seth Jones was the other question.
Enough of the try. He's a good player. He's going to be here for the foreseeable future. Let's just move on.
He's pretty anchored, and I think when we did the what would it take to buy him out, and you're paying him until 2039, which is not a real year.
And you're still, and you have a defenseman who was right now the same age Duncan Keith was the year he won his first Norris Trophy.
Right. Not saying Seth Jones is going to win a Norris
Trophy.
Trophy.
No, but just like the dude is in the prime of his career. He's still a really good defenseman. He's still your best defenseman. Yes, the contract stinks for the team in this situation. Mm-hmm. We can't do anything about that. Like, let's stop pretending that we're trying to trade, an Alex Nylander on Seth Jones' contract here. Like, this guy is a very good hockey player. He's going to be the number one defenseman on this team for the foreseeable future.
Top.
Let's just enjoy the fact that we've got a really good hockey player.
It doesn't help that Pronman put out the article, the worst contracts in hockey, and his was second.
That was Dom.
Oh, Dom.
So one of those number nerds.
Scroll up a little bit there. Sorry, it's Alton V says, "Well, I do think Seth Jones makes a bit too much. Why does everybody hate the guy so much? I know we're rebuilding. I feel like ever since he's been here, no one likes the dude. He had 52 points for us last season." Exactly. Yep. Yes, they traded too much to get him. He probably makes $1 million too much, which is not it's $1 million.
This is a team that is not strapped for salary cap issues. And in 4 years,
fine.
3 years, that deal's going to look like a bargain.
If the Blackhawks were going to be continuously going for it under previous management,
it'd be a hindrance.
It would suck to have him for that much money. But that's not the case.
Yes.
And $1 million overpayment, sure, that's fine. Now with potentially $21 million coming off the books, as I point at Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane, it's not going to hurt as much.
No.
Yes, he's still a top 15, top 20 defenseman in the league.
He's the best defenseman on the team. It's not even close. And to answer Alton V's question, why is there so much hate for this guy? It's not It's not hate for Seth Jones. It's hate for he who shall not be named. The trade and the contract. Neither of those things are
the conditions around him coming.
And the guy who made the trade and signed the contract is gone. We need to just move on.
If Seth Jones,
it's really unfair to Jones.
Yeah, if he continuously plays 27, 28 minutes a night and puts up 50 points, what's wrong with that?
After this year,
you're getting your money's worth.
Unless they get Bedard, after this season, he's going to be their leading scorer for a few years in a row.
Probably.
Quite possibly.
Like, it's legit. Like, get used to it. My dad texted me, "Jones, second worst contract in hockey. Thanks, he who shall not be named." He didn't say that. He said the actual name, but I can't afford to pay anymore. Payday's a little bit away. It's like, he's an awesome player. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. All right, let's go to the old Twitters. Two Girls, One Puck, one of our favorite commenters.
Nice.
Says, realistically speaking, how many years of rope do you think Kyle Davidson will get to turn this from a tank, rebuild, to a contender? Looking at recent teams who tanked, those GMs eventually got replaced well before they reached contender status. Buffalo, the primary example. Well, Joe Sakic has been the GM in Colorado for a long time.
Yeah.
And they sucked when they were rebuilding.
Yeah.
They were real bad. I think Davidson gets a lot of rope. I really do.
What's his contract for? 4 years?
Davidson?
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
4 or 5?
5. Wasn't it 5?
There's your answer.
Yeah.
I don't see any scenario where he gets fired before his contract is up unless there's some really awful bad PR thing that happens. I don't. This is their guy. This is their guy. They're giving him full control. There hasn't been much of anything where you go, well, that's Rocky interfering with the team, or that's so and so, that's Danny interfering with. Not, you see that in other teams around town. Like you look at the White Sox and people go, well, Rick Hahn doesn't have the power to fire the manager, apparently, because we all know that that's a Jerry Reinsdorf move, and the reason he's still here is because of Jerry Reinsdorf. You're not seeing that with the Hawks right now, at least not anything that blatantly obvious. So Kyle Davidson's their guy. So he's getting as much rope as he needs, I think, for whatever that contract, 4 or 5 years. If we're here 4 seasons from now, and the Hawks have not improved at all, and these prospects are not turning in the NHL players, then you start going, okay, we need to go to another direction. But you have to give them at least, bare minimum, 3 or 4 seasons to let these draft classes start to pan out. Now, if we're here on August 1st, 2025, 2026. And Frank Nazar is no longer in the organization, never played. Kevin Korchinski has never played in the NHL. Then it's time to move on.
Yeah.
But if those guys are here and producing, you got to keep rolling.
I think the reformatted ownership group of Danny Wirtz and Jamie Faulkner kind of taking the lead on that. They've spoken about organizational buy-in to Kyle and his plan, and I think that's all you really need to know. They are buying into what his plan is, and he has said his plan is going to take a couple of years. So, yeah, 3, 4, 5 years. I think that's the leash you have to give him to at least see some results and some improvement, because, this year and next year are probably going to be the worst, hopefully the worst years of the rebuilding plan. And to the question, cough, cough, tank, whatever, let's not be afraid to call it a tank. The writing is on the wall. The Blackhawks are tanking. Like, you don't trade Alex DeBrincat
for Connor Bedard.
You don't trade DeBrincat and Doc, and don't re-sign Strome and Kubalik and let them walk for free and say, like, no, that's a tank. Like, you can come out and say it. It's fine. It's not a curse word. It's a tank. Like, you're going for a top 3 pick, hopefully the top overall pick.
You got 3 franchise generational players at the top of next year's draft. This is the year to tank. Mm-hmm. You don't tank this past year to try and get a Shane Wright or the Nico Hischier trade. No disrespect to those players, but you don't tank for those guys.
Probably pretty good players, yeah.
You do tank for a Connor Bedard or
absolutely.
a Mitchkov or a Fantelli. Those are the type of guys you give up an entire season to get.
Got a super chat here from Brandon.
Super chat
says Seth Jones is a $7 million defenseman making $2.5 million too much. He's fine, but not a $9.5 million player. So
if it's
$7 million defenseman,
$2.5 million.
Let's take a look at seven. It's $7 million defenseman. Ryan McDonough, 6.75. Ivan Provorov, 6.75. Brent Seabrook, 6.875. John Klingberg makes 7 on the dot. Mark Edward Vlasic, 7. Aaron Ekblad, 7.5. So that's the $7 million range. Yeah. Seth Jones is better than all of them.
Not Aaron Ekblad.
I would take Ekblad.
Aaron Ekblad is underpaid.
Okay.
He's underpaid. He deserves more than that.
How long ago, I wonder, how was that deal signed? Ekblad's
Probably
deal?
Recently.
2 or 3 years ago.
Was it?
Probably 2 or 3 years.
All right, now let's look at the people making money like Seth Jones.
Well,
this is tougher, right? So
Seth Jones kind of set that market.
Zach Werenski, 9.583. He makes more. Charlie McAvoy and Jones have identical deals, as does Adam Fox. Darnell Nurse, 9.25. Yossi, $9 million. Dougie Hamilton, $9 million. Cale Makar just signed $9 million. So that's about the range. So yeah, somewhere in that $7 to $8 million range is about right for Seth Jones. So it's not a massive overpayment.
Right,
I think if it was just the contract and not also all the assets they gave up to acquire the contract, that's the problem. It's the combination of the two. But that person has been held accountable, so we might as well just move on with our lives.
It is what it is. Yes, we all agree he's making a little bit too much more money. We can't do anything about it.
Super chat from Corey.
Trust the process.
# trust the process.
Hop on the ride.
I think that one's already taken. But hop on the ride.
We have no choice but to trust Kyle Davidson in this process right now. We don't have.
You can choose not to trust him, but there's no reason not to.
But there's no reason not to. Give it like a season or two.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten to the season yet. And people want him tossed.
Yes, we get it. Al Rad says
let's ride it out.
What if the Hawks don't draft Bedard, or what if they do and he's a bust, and you traded away a 40 goal scorer? We had that 40 goal scorer for 2 seasons and missed the playoffs both years. We're trying something different.
Yeah, if Alex DeBrincat's on this team, all you are is slightly better losing.
You're back at the number 5 or number 6 pick again next year. You're going for it. You're giving yourselves the best odds to get one of those top 3 picks. You may not. It's all a risk. There's no guarantee that Alex DeBrincat is ever scoring 40 goals again in the NHL. That's the odds of him scoring 40 goals this season are better than the Blackhawks getting the number 1 pick, but there's still no guarantee. You're trying something different. For the love of God, It's time to try something different.
Yeah, it is. This rebuild is what, 3 years overdue?
5 years over.
At least 3 years overdue. And there's a lot of people saying like they can't do that. Like, Mr. Dudd says there's no way Wirtz will give Davidson the right to the time to right the ship. There's
What?
too much lost money at stake. No, it's you
Lost money.
Last year they did it where they signed Seth Jones and brought in Fleury and brought in Tyler Johnson and brought in all these guys. It's not working. This is the only way. Look, if you want to be the Pittsburgh Penguins for the next 15 years, where you're in the playoffs every year and your fan favorites are there, and you get knocked out in the first round, maybe the second round every year, it doesn't get you Stanley Cups. That is the point. The point of playing in the NHL is to win Stanley Cups, and we have to get fans' brains to think that way. What is the path to a championship? Not just being good or entertaining or in the playoffs. Playoffs are great. They're a lot of fun. But you know what's not fun? Losing year after year after year in the playoffs. Ask Vancouver. How fun was that for them? You had people tearing up the city. They were so frustrated. Literally setting the city on fire because their hockey team was not winning Stanley Cups. The way to a cup is with a full rebuild. Look at Colorado.
Look at Tampa.
My God, look at Tampa.
All
These
those
teams were
homegrown
so
guys.
bad for so long. And look at the damn Blackhawks dynasty. What percentage of those guys were homegrown? And the ones that weren't, like Patrick Sharp, you traded homegrown prospects for him. Matt Ellison, that's the answer to your trivia question. That was a guy traded for Patrick Sharp. Then when it's time to win, you go get Hossa. You trade for Vermette. On and on and on. That's how you do it. You have to do it. Growing from the ground up, piecemealing it year after year after year. The Hawks have done it every year since 2015, and it hasn't worked. Now they've waited too long, so now you have to completely, like Greg says, you're below ground zero. You're underground at this point. I think the draft maybe has them now at zero because you've brought in some actually decent NHL prospects that are years away yet, but at least now you're at zero.
The draft and free agency this last month has basically been, okay, now we're at a starting point.
Yeah. This is
right.
Yeah. The day after free agency was day one of the actual rebuild moving forward. So yeah, it's, you just got to look at all the teams. You can't win a Stanley Cup by going out and getting free agents. It doesn't work that way. You know, most sports you can't do that. Other sports you have a little more leeway. You can in baseball, but you still got to have your own. Yeah,
no salary cap. I'm not using the kids' lingo.
Yeah, no salary cap. That helps. So you gotta look at Colorado, all their homegrown guys. Look at Tampa and their dynasty run. Most of those guys drafted or acquired smartly
early, or
So you gotta build from within. It's overdue. Yes, it's gonna stink this year, but as I said last week, we are losing to get better. This is losing with a plan of getting better. It's not losing just to lose. I know you see other teams in this town trade away superstars for lottery tickets, and there's no real plan. The Hawks have a plan. Is it going to be the right one? We don't know. We'll find out in 3 or 4 or 5 years. But at least there's a plan.
There's many reasons to want the pandemic to never happen. One of them, way down the list, is I wonder what would have happened if you play out the 19-20 season and they completely miss the playoffs and they're not in the bubble postseason and they don't upset the Oilers and they don't get into the quote-unquote playoffs. I wonder how that plays out differently because I feel like in the terms of starting the rebuild, but that may have sparked a little bit.
But didn't that following off season is when he who should not be named wrote that bullshit letter that they were rebuilding?
They were going with a youth movement.
Yeah.
The terminology is
the rebuild
different.
on the fly kind of an idea.
It's like, oh, we have some of these young players. Let's play them now.
That was just to tell people, hey, we're trading Brent Seabrook and we're not bringing back Corey Crawford.
Yeah.
That was basically what that was.
Essentially, yeah. I don't know. It's just something I always think about.
It's a great point. And I also think, too, like, that we're like, oh, maybe we're not as bad as we thought. No, you suck.
Yeah.
The Oilers, like, watching that series, it just felt like the Hawks were ready to lose at any moment. The Oilers lost that series. The Hawks did not win it.
Because the Oilers spent the entire series just watching around, standing around waiting for Connor McDavid to do everything. And he almost did single-handedly beat the Hawks in that series.
All right, we're way behind on our ad copy, and we're sorry. I know you guys really look forward to the ad copy portion of the show. So I'm going to really sell this one to you.
Oh,
Are you guys loving CHGO?
yes.
It seems like it. I know, we get a little bit heated during the chats and all that stuff, and it's great. We love you guys. We love the passion. That's what this is all about. We're building this community of passionate Hawks fans and Chicago sports fans. But if you want to show us the love back, download the PointsBet app, and when you do, use that code CHGO. We're going to hook you up with up to $2,000 in free bets, risk-free. Risk-free, damn it.
No risk.
Come on, that's no risk, exactly. But that's not all. Oh, no. You make a $50 or more first-time deposit at PointsBet, and you're going to get a free CHGO membership. That'll get you all of our great web content, and you'll even get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. And I've been told it's dope. Yeah.
The merch is dope.
So $2,000 in free bets, a free CHGO membership, and a free t-shirt from the CHGO locker. All that for making a $50 or more first-time deposit at PointsBet and using that promo code CHGO when you sign up. And you could do it right from your damn phone. Get it out, download the PointsBet app, sign up, use that code CHGO. You'll be placing wagers in moments right from your couch, from your shower if you're a weirdo like me, in the nude, whatever you want to do. You've got it, man, right there in your hand with that PointsBet app. And play along with the games at home. Those in-game bets are so much fun. It is time to elevate your live betting game. Download the PointsBet app right now and use that code CHGO. Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER for crisis counseling and referral services.
That was a fantastic read, Jay.
I know.
That was great.
I'm signing up right now. Again.
Shouldn't you
Gotta be
already been
naked.
saying-
Again.
We're also not only brought to you by PointsBet, but also by Owen. And no, it's not Owen Power. It is spelled OWYN. And what is it? Well, it stands for Only What You Need. And it is a 100% plant-based protein shake that gives you nutrition that works just as hard as you do. All of Owen's products are free of artificial ingredients. They are allergen-friendly, and they don't contain any gluten or dairy, which makes them easily digestible. You may have heard about Owen from Chicago Bears quarterback Justin Fields, who follows a plant-based diet. Owen and CHGO are partnering up to give you an awesome offer. You can get 20% off of your first purchase at liveowen.com when you use the promo code CHGO20. That's liveowen.com, promo code CHGO20 to get 20% off of your first purchase. I have also tried the Owen products as I have started to work out again. Feeling good, helps with the recovery time. So join myself and Justin Fields, one and the same when it comes to elite athleticism and working out abilities. And try Owen, only what you need, OWYN, Owen.
All right, let's go back to the Twitter questions. We got one here from Raphael. He says, don't see many people talking about how Tyler Johnson can be important this season. He and Jonathan Toews are healthy now. They're playing well. Reichel playing well. I did it again. Max Domi, Athanasiou, etc. I really think this team is better than last year, even without the cat. Don't you? Cheers from Brazil.
I hope not.
I had to talk myself out of this.
I hope not.
I had to help talk you.
Yeah, thank you. I
They're
think,
not.
Yeah, they're not. They're not. You got to look at, like, you can see a lot of potential in these names and say, oh, look, if they all have career years or all have, duplicate their best seasons, maybe, just maybe.
That would suck.
I don't think that's going to happen. There's just not a lot of weapons here. Tyler Johnson has struggled to stay healthy. Jonathan Toews has struggled to stay healthy. Domi and Athanasiou are, second liners on a decent team, probably third liners on a great team. They're just not game changers. The D is really porous. The goalies are bad.
Yeah, there's no Marc-Andre
just-
Fleury
there's
this season either.
Even if Mrazek bounces back, he's not the kind of guy who's going to keep you.
It's still largely the same defense.
Yes.
And
you might be losing
without
some
Calvin
of those
DeHaan.
pieces. You're losing Calvin DeHaan too, yeah.
So-
Speaking of losing Calvin DeHaan, he texted me this morning and said he wants to wait until he signs somewhere to join the show.
Oh.
So we'll be having
We'll
him
talk
on.
to him on October 1st.
Down the road, yes, that's for sure.
Oh, he'll be good for our opening night telecast then.
That's not to disrespect Calvin DeHaan.
No, but
it's
he's-
very weird that there's so many good players
Yeah.
that don't have contracts
Right.
yet.
Well, maybe he comes back on a cheap deal, and then we trade him this year. Who knows?
Who knows?
But this, we
yeah.
appreciate you checking in and watching from Brazil, and the optimism as well. But
Yeah, I don't.
let's just we don't want this team to be better than last year.
I don't see.
That's
I don't
counterproductive to
I don't
what they're
see this
trying
team
to do.
being better than
But they're
last
not
year.
going to be better. No DeBrincat, no Doc, no Strome, no Kubalik. And you replace those two guys with Domi and Athanasiou. No, it's.
I don't.
If you squint really hard, you're still not a good team.
Outside of having Domi and Athanasiou, kind of wedged into your top 6, what's your bottom 6? Like Tyler Johnson,
It's a bunch of
Philip
Kurashev,
Radish Kachuk,
future captain Reese
and
Johnson.
Whistle.
Mackenzie
Like it's not.
Entwistle.
It
Yeah,
doesn't.
It's not.
It's
There's
not. The
there-
depth isn't there.
There's
Like, you
no
can,
scoring in that bottom
Yeah,
6.
like that top
none.
6 might be good, but you can't just ride those guys. And if you try to, you're gonna burn out.
You're gonna struggle to score goals.
Yeah, it
And-
doesn't.
And the nights that you
don't see
actually
it.
can put together a 3-goal effort, you got to worry about porous
gotta
defense
stop 3 goals.
and Swiss cheese goaltending.
Yeah.
So I don't see. I appreciate the optimism. I just don't see a lot of reasons that the overall team to be optimistic for. Now there are smaller things to be optimistic about and excited about, but don't be optimistic for this team being good. You don't want them to be.
No.
good. That's kind of the point.
Yeah,
You
that would
kind of
be
made
bad.
this roster. You made this roster to be worse than last year on purpose.
Yeah.
So let's be worse than last year.
There's a comment up there from Al a little bit. Kevin, if you get, there you go. He says, Hawks have not drafted an impact player beside DeBrincat. Since Kane, their draft record is pathetic.
That guy is
All
gone.
the people who made those drafts are gone.
They're gone.
It is not. It is. They don't like lay a jersey out on the draft table and the jersey dials the phone and makes the pick. It is human beings. Those human beings are gone.
Yes.
It is a completely new regime making draft picks. So looking at the past of what he who shall not be named and crew did is a completely irrelevant argument. Completely irrelevant.
They have
Okay.
also drafted dynamic players since Patrick Kane. It's just they
They've
didn't
traded him away.
develop them and keep them.
Table Teravainen pretty good. Yeah, he's all right. Josh Micah says, what will it take for the Blackhawks to sign Phil Kessel? And please don't say hot dogs. Well,
Probably
Well,
about $2
there
million
you go.
bucks, $3 million bucks. Whatever they gave to Ty Domi, you give to Phil Kessel.
Max, you
Max
get it
Domi.
too.
Should we get a
need
jar for
Max Ty jar?
No, we
No.
got to get a Max Tie jar now. Yeah.
I just want to clarify for myself
proving our
because it got
age.
people were coming after me this weekend on Twitter. I'm like, I don't actually think the Hawks should sign Phil Kessel.
No,
Would it be
you do.
fun?
I
No,
do.
you do.
It would be fun. The problem is
do.
what we're just talking about, though. If you
gotta
bring in
lean
Phil
into it,
Kessel,
Jay.
you might make the team a little too competitive.
Do you, though?
I think you
He
do.
played all 81 games for the 82 games for the Coyotes last year, and they got the number 2 overall pick. So
He scored 8 goals.
He had 8 goals last year.
I don't know. I'm done. I am. This is to me.
Phil Kessel does not move that
Oh, you
needle for
want it.
making this team that much more competitive.
You cannot bring in anyone else with any sort of a resume unless you move
you
somebody
gotta
out with a
do it.
better resume. Those are my rules. Kyle Davidson, I know you're watching. Do not bring in Phil Kessel unless
Do
you
it.
trade Connor Murphy. Like, you've got to do something to offset the potential impact.
The Dave Chappelle.
I think that it's counterproductive to bring in
Kessel was a
literally
genius.
anyone with skill.
Kessel was a minus 24 last year. See,
Wow,
he
the
Plus
Coyotes,
minus
the Coyotes
doesn't
are like a
matter.
minus 150.
right, so he's going to fit in perfectly. He's not going to make this team any better.
No.
He's not. He may win you one more game this year.
That's
Maybe.
too many.
One more game than without him. Not one more game than last year. So they'll win 14
Yes.
games with him instead of the 13
Oh, my
without
God.
him.
No, I
it
just have
started
nightmares
as a
of like,
bit. It's now a movement.
I just
Let's
ha-
go.
I just have nightmares
Gotta
of,
happen.
and as the fat guy on the show, I feel bad not appealing for Phil, but I have fears that like, what if Jonathan Toews bounces back? I'm like, what if Lucas Reichel is legit and has like a 50-point season in his rookie year?
You
You're
need
so
to,
optimistic,
You need
Jay.
to lay
I
off
love
the
it.
edibles before bed.
Absolutely not. We
My
won't be
pitch to
doing
Kessel,
that.
minus hot dogs, is come to Chicago, a great food city, a wide variety of food. Not a lot of expectations.
Nope.
A relatively friendly media group compared to other cities he's played in before.
Yep.
And
He'd be a darling here.
Yeah, and Chicago loves their folk hero athletes. Like, come to Chicago, play 60 games.
Just watch what our guy Daniel's doing on Twitter.
Absolutely.
That's dedication you're not going to get.
That's
from
love for
anybody
a
else.
player that has no business being here and probably won't be here.
I'm trying to think with my brain and not my clogged heart. All right, like My heart wants Phil Kessel here. My head is telling me stop bringing in people who have been good before. You're screwing everything up.
It's been a while since Phil Kessel has been a difference maker. And he's not going to be a difference maker.
He's going to be revitalized by Italian beef juice.
Here's one more sales pitch to Phil Kessel. Your main goal right now is breaking the Ironman consecutive games played record. Nobody is challenging you for a roster spot here in Chicago.
Not be pushed out of the lineup.
Nobody is taking away playing
Not
time
gonna get
from you.
yandled.
So yes, so come here and set your record, and then you can ride off into the sunset in the Wienermobile.
If ownership is worried about losing money and selling tickets, Kessel jerseys are going to be hot ticket items in the city of Chicago.
And you can sell those tickets to
the Iron Man streak.
Yeah.
Sell those tickets. I mean,
it would be perfect if like the record-breaking game would be a home game. That would be one of like
amazing.
3 sellouts.
Amazing.
There's nothing
you
wrong
come to
with getting
Chicago,
some good shine on this team. He would bring a positive spotlight.
60 decent games in Chicago. You're beloved forever, and then you can control where you want to go and try and win a cup if you please.
And is there any other player in the NHL that looks like he could be just a guy from, the Mount Greenwood neighborhood more than Phil Kessel?
No, that's him.
It's Phil Kessel from Edison Park.
It was Scott Darling. Scott Darling is Mount Greenwood to a T.
Yeah.
But yeah, Phil's
like he could walk around the city and no one would be like, hey, it's Phil Kessel. It's just like, oh, hey, there's a guy enjoying a beef.
Hey, the beer guy is here. The delivery guy is here. Let's let him. Oh wait, you play hockey?
Narfin says if Kessel signs, Jay has to buy a Kessel jersey. I'll get a jersey. I'm not going to invest like
go full
$250 for a guy who's going to be here for 4 months.
I'm getting if Kessel signs in Chicago, I will get the home, away, any alternate. I'll get the 2018. I'll get the 2019 Winter Classic with Kessel.
I'm going to get the
that he never wore.
I'm going to get the barber pole jersey with Kessel.
Can't wear horizontal stripes. He will not allow that jersey. Just makes big guys look bigger. All right, a couple more here.
Disclaimer:
this
I will not be buying
Hank.
all those jerseys.
He says this season is all about getting that high draft pick. Bedard is the obvious number 1 overall, but you guys said Fantilli over Michkov for second. I understand all the thinking about the KHL and Russia and all the uncertainty there with his long contract, but I think Michkov could potentially be a more talented player than even Bedard, and taking Fantilli before Michkov seems like the wrong pick to me. High risk, very, very high reward with Michkov. I think I agree with everything you're saying.
It's rational, yeah.
If the uncertainty wasn't there, Michkov would be in the discussion with Bedard for the number 1 pick. There's no doubt about that.
I think a lot of people are having that discussion, putting the KHL business aside.
The problem is, even if we were just in standard Russian relations, I'd feel a lot better about it.
Yeah.
Right now, no.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Look what's happening with Brittany Griner. Look what's happening, more importantly, the war in Ukraine. Like, things are not good, and it's not going to improve anytime soon. There's a chance Michkov gets drafted and never comes here. That is a legitimate possibility.
It is.
And for a franchise that needs this draft, whether it's Fantilli or Bedard or whoever, to hit, you cannot take that risk.
And if he plays out, I forget the length of his KHL contract, but if he plays that out before he comes to Chicago, yes, the Blackhawks have time to wait for prospects to develop, but they don't have 7 years to wait for that pick to come over. Like, I don't know, man. I really think if you're looking to accelerate the rebuild with a more sure thing, Bedard or Fantilli are your top 2 options. If you land in the 3rd spot and Michkov is your best pick, I think then you're in this position where it's just like you kind of have to take him and hope things go well. But yeah, I don't know. I'm still very much in the 1-2 Bedard and Fantilli.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like, Michkov might be the better player when it's all said and done out of all 3 of those guys, but just too much uncertainty. Maybe things change between now and the draft, but just go get the number 1 pick and draft Connor Bedard, and then we don't have to worry about it. Yeah. Stay awake at night worried about if he's ever going to come here or not.
Will says, I do think, though, if we get a good haul from a Kane trade, when was the last time we've ever seen a teardown of this proportion? 2 first-rounders in 3 consecutive drafts, potentially 3 firsts. Yeah, I've been trying to think of a comp for like what the Hawks are doing, and I can't think of a team that's like so quickly torn it down from like trying to contend, tearing it down, from going from 0 first-round picks to 3 in 1 year, and then potentially 2 or 3 next year. I don't know. You guys have anything
at
like
least 2
close to that?
I can't remember.
Man,
Nothing jumps off the page.
Yeah, not off the top of my head, but yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Well, he's definitely
to have that turnaround.
Definitely lit the fire under this rebuild. I mean, because if he has no first round picks this year, you're basically the rebuild starts next year,
Right.
Yeah.
because you don't add any major you get second round picks, but those aren't guys that traditionally change your franchise.
If your first pick of this year's draft class was Paul Ludwinski,
It's not looking.
I don't think you're going, woo, hey, rebuild, we're off to a good start.
So,
but with Korchinski and Nazar and Sam Renzel, you're like, oh, hey, that's a little bit of a spark there.
Yeah.
Just got to look at Scott Wheeler's top 50 prospects. We had him on last Thursday, so if you haven't checked that episode out, look it up. Lots of great prospect talk from the athletics expert.
Mm-hmm.
He last season on his top 50, we only had Lucas Reichel. Now we've got 3. You got Frank Nazar and Kevin Korchinski, and they're both ahead of Lucas Reichel. That's exactly what you wanted to accomplish in this past year's
And
draft.
also Drew Comesso, who is 8th in his top 10 goalies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
and
it's
Arvid
looking better.
Soderblom, who was an honorable mention.
Yeah. So it's looking better, and that's all you want to see at this
it's a
point
good
is
start.
some progression.
We have another super chat from Brandon for $2. He says Scott Darling was from Lamont. Yeah, they mentioned that a couple times on the broadcast. I'm just saying he looks like a Mount Greenwood guy. Trust me, my family is full of them.
I host
If
trivia
Scott
there every
Darling showed up at a
Wednesday.
family party, people would not even notice that he so he looks like everybody from Mount Greenwood. Yeah, so
There you go.
This is a great question from McLovin, by the way. If the Hawks get screwed and pick 3rd, who should they take instead of Michkov? Now, if they have the 3rd pick and it goes Bedard, Fantilli, and Michkov is still there,
Then I think
are you
him.
taking the risk then?
I think so.
I would.
Because I there's some players that could potentially, like we talked with Chris Peters about the upcoming draft class in 2023 before this year's draft. He said there could be 2 or 3 other players that jump into that tier of Bedard, Fantilli, and Michkov, but we don't know those guys yet. If any of them will make that leap in their draft year this year as far as expectations go. I think if you're 3rd and Fantilli and Bedard are off the board, I think with the risks of uncertainty, I think you still got to take him at that point. I think if you have the option between the 3 of them, you take both North American-based guys, in my opinion. But if you're left with the 3rd option and he's there, he's the 3rd option.
And that could change between now and the draft. If the draft was being held right now, I'd still go with Michkov, but we don't know. We got a full season. There's guys there's a lot of other top-end talent that's going to put their name in the conversation for these top 3.
Yeah.
So right now, it'd still be Michkov. Next July or June, whenever the draft is next season, we could have 3 or 4 other players added to that mix.
Yeah, potentially, yeah.
And if you're scared at 3 with Michkov, you could trade down.
Sure. I'm sure there'd be...
And get 5 and whatever.
You
You
could,
know what I mean?
yeah, I guess you could.
If there's somebody that really wants Michkov or one of those other guys, you could trade down. And if Michkov, if there's so much uncertainty, you could trade down the 5 or 6, get a couple other assets, and still get Michkov.
Potentially, yeah.
Maybe.
I think even with the uncertainty in the modern world, I think there's less of a chance that it's like, oh, he just never comes over from the KHL. I think there's less of that, but there's a chance. There's still some of that, but I think there's less of that. I think if you're at 3 and he's there, you take him. If they're outside of the top 3, it's the draft is a completely different discussion.
Yeah.
There's one more I want to get to, Kevin, before we wrap up. If you could scroll up just a little bit. There it is. No roids, just rage.
Nice.
Hey, guys, in your opinion, with all these trade rumors surrounding Kane, the newest ones to Dallas, I do see a lot of promising prospects that Dallas has, but we definitely need a
It's
first-round pick for Kane.
no.
There's nothing going
That
on
rumor
with
is not
Dallas.
true. I don't know. I hesitate to like rip people because I do think the person that has that report probably has a few sources just based on his profile and some of the work he does.
Yeah.
But we've been told that specific rumor is not true from several sources, not just one, not just with the team, whatever. There are people whose job it is, part of their job anyway, to generate clicks, to generate traffic. And I think we should let people know, because this kind of came out too. Like someone said, well, you're shooting down a rumor so people listen to your podcast. Like, we are not paid by the click. It doesn't work that way for us.
That's not the business model. Yeah.
So we're not trying to like, oh, let's stir things up and try to. We're never gonna click generate. Like, yes, we want you guys to listen and we want you guys to read our stuff, but we're never gonna manufacture information just to generate clicks. We're not paid per web hit. We're not paid per download.
We will never use the term sources to generate anything. Like,
we don't deal.
We are a
in
panel
rumors.
that will say that, knowing that it is backed up by 100% information, and we're not in the business of being like newsbreakers, but we're kind of. I don't want to speak for everyone, but as far as what the information that we're able to find out, it's more of kind of confirming things or making sure that what we're seeing is actually, what can we take as more fact and more uncertainty.
Yeah, we're not going to be creating rumors on this show.
No.
We'll address rumors, but you can guarantee that we've reached out to our collective sources to get more information. We're never going to be hey, you heard it here first, so-and-so is going here or whatever.
Yeah, I would say this.
We're not in that business.
Don't look at us to break like trade news. Look for us to have information on what's happening with the team, right? How things are behind the scenes, how coaches and players are getting along, how players are behaving or reacting to things that are going on. It's not going to be like, we got this tip, the Hawks are trading for this guy. That's not the kind of sources that we have.
Plus,
but we have people that can tell us the reality of what's happening in the Blackhawks, and the reality is, as of this moment, that conversation with Dallas or anyone else in Patrick Kane is not happening. It is fluid, as we've said every episode this summer, because these guys truly don't know what they want to do yet. And I don't think they're going to figure it out this summer. I think they're going to start the season, see how things go, see how it feels, and then they'll make their decision during the year.
I don't want to be the guy that constantly tries to break news. There are established guys who do much better jobs than I will ever be able to do at that. Elliot Friedman, Derek Dreger, Bob McKenzie,
Frank Saravalli.
Those are the guys to go to.
Kevin
for this
Weeks
stuff.
apparently
Kevin
is
Weeks
now like
is in tune with it. I can never get on the level of those guys, nor do I want to. I don't want to be. I don't want to be in that bit. I would
not
rather.
A life I want.
I don't want to predict things. I don't want to break news. I would rather just give you sound opinions and analysis after the fact, after it happens. That's what I want to do.
Yep.
I don't want to be Elliot Friedman. I love Elliot Friedman. He's an amazing guy.
It seems
does
exhausting.
a great job. Yeah, I don't want to be that. I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want it.
Guys like that, like Adrian Wojnarowski, Sham Charania, like would not want that life.
No,
because
it doesn't stop.
There's so much of being right and being first and having things exclusively. You're constantly battling every other reporter to get that news.
And if you get one wrong, you're an ass.
Yeah.
And you're an idiot and you're a hack, despite the 10,000 you've gotten correct before.
Like a guy like Darren Dreger, like he's been right about things, but he's also been wrong, and that leads to a lot of people being like, what's he got to say? Right. Like, I get it, but it's also like, no, that's not a life I want.
I prefer to deal with facts and things that can be proven.
Yeah.
That's just my world.
Yeah. So when you see stuff, we will always investigate.
Yes.
And check in with our sources for either affirmation or, like, for instance, when the Frank Saravalli story broke about the Luke Richardson hire, we reached out to our sources and confirmed that was true.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So instead of, and they could have said, no, this is not true, and we would have reported that. It's just, we're going to verify. We are verifiers of stories more than breakers of news. So,
well, look at the Ryan Husk little thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
that was so weird.
Like Kevin Weeks was like, yeah, Blackhawks are hiring Ryan Husk. And we were like,
And everybody freaked out.
And everyone was like, Ryan Husk, what the hell? We reached out to people, and they were like, no, that's not happening.
That was the weirdest thing.
And then 20 minutes later, it was just like, Kevin Weeks is like, hey, guys, sorry, things are fluid. I'm just reporting what I've been told, but I guess that's not the case. And we were just like,
I think,
that wasn't it.
An important thing to remember, too, like, Kevin Weeks is newer at the news-breaking game than Bobby Margarita or Darren Dreger or whatever.
I love that you call him Bobby Margarita.
I'm sorry. That guy, I don't know if I told the story before, but I tried to get him on the score one day, and I called him, and he answered, and I was like, hey, remember when you break trades and you're my hero and you're awesome? He's like, can I help you, son? I'm like, oh, yeah. I just completely, like, Chris Farley'd myself. And this was recently. This is, like, within the last 5 years this happened. I just completely got starstruck.
That's great.
But he's been doing it forever. He is a craftsman. Yeah. Like, you see him like, oh, I'm retired. Oh, it's trade deadline day. Let me swoop in and break all the news.
It's draft day. I'm going to break the first 5 picks before anybody else.
Exactly.
I still got it.
And then he just dips out.
Yeah. But, like, Kevin Weeks is learning on the job. Like, okay, like with the Ryan Huska thing, maybe
not everything I'm told needs to go right to
or
Twitter.
let's double verify, triple verify before
that's
we report.
Part of the problem.
Right?
We live in a society, a news cycle, not only just in sports but in general, that people want to be first as opposed to being right.
Mm-hmm.
They'll worry about being right later as long as they were first. And I don't care about being first on anything.
I'd rather be
right,
second,
informed,
third, fourth, and right than first and wrong.
I'd rather give you some informed analysis than being the first. I don't care about being first.
Yeah.
But you know what is verified?
What?
FOCO.
Oh.
FOCO is your verified source for all your favorite Chicago sports collectibles. And CHGO has now teamed up with FOCO to secure your access to the best collectibles and gear around. Whether it's the Blackhawks, the Bears, the Cubs, the White Sox, or Bulls, FOCO will have something for you, your kid, a friend, or your loved one, or your loved one's kid, or your kid's friend. Whoever you get buying for, FOCO will have it. If you're looking to get some new gear, collectibles, or accessories, FOCO has officially licensed gear for men, women, and kids, and everything from bobbleheads to swimsuits to Crocs. It's going to be a hot one this weekend. Get yourself a Blackhawks Speedo, and you're going to be
another one.
Well,
All
I wear mine so often, they wear out in certain areas. So FOCO has got you covered for your best Chicago merchandise for your favorite team. Head on over to FOCO, that's FOCO.com, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can click on the link below in the description. And as a special thank you to CHGO listeners, for all non-presale items, use the promo code CHGO at checkout, and you're going to save 10% off your entire purchase. That's 10% off that teeny tiny Blackhawks Speedo.
All right. We're out of time. Chuckle Mucko wrote us on Twitter, and it's a good question, but do we have time? Can we do one more, Kevin?
Quick one.
All right, quick one here.
No one else
you don't
is
have
here.
this. This is not for the screen. He says, if tanking doesn't work out this season and the Hawks don't land a top 3 pick next year, what would be their best path forward to success? Would it push the rebuild timeline out past 5 years? Would they be the Sabres 2.0? Well, as Chris Peters told us, this draft is deep beyond the top 3.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, look, Connor Bedard, Fantilli probably accelerates the rebuild a little bit. But I don't know if it would, if not getting one of those two, like, hampers it beyond normal.
If they land like 4 or 5 in the draft this year, and they have Tampa's late round first round pick, that's pretty good. In the potential Toews Kane trades, they might wind up with another first round. If you get 3 first round picks, if you don't get 1, 2, or 3, you still, like you did this last draft, you still can get some quality prospects that build up your system.
Yeah, I think
does not getting Bedard, Fantilli, Michkov, whatever, does that not take a year off the rebuild? Probably, but it's still
you're still on track.
You're still on track.
Yeah. I think not getting one of those top 3 picks is a disappointment, but it's not a failure. As you mentioned, you got that second Tampa pick. There's options to maybe get a third. Mm-hmm. There are going to be 4 to 6 guys in this draft that could have very easily been number 1 overall this past draft.
Yeah.
So getting the 4th overall pick would be disappointing, but you're still going to get a very
good player.
You're still going to get the top prospect in your organization at that pick.
Yep.
So, yes, the goal here is number one in Bedard. That's what this roster is built for. If it doesn't happen, if the ping pong balls don't fall your way and you get a 4 or 5, it will be disappointing, but there's so much talent in this draft. You're still going to pick the best prospect in your organization with that pick.
The consolation prizes in this upcoming draft class in 2023 are much better than in 2022.
Absolutely. And maybe Tampa has struggles and somehow misses the playoffs or gets bounced in the first round, and you're picking 17th, 18th as opposed to 28th, 29th. That looks a lot better.
It's a lot better.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. A lot of people reminding me in the chat to remind you in the YouTube to smash that like button. Hit the like button. I'm going to YouTube right now to smash it myself.
Smash it. Hammer.
There, I smashed it.
That was good.
That felt nice. I like that a lot. It's a really nice feeling to smash that button. So
Jay just broke the like button.
I did.
It so hard.
You broke the internet.
Join us tomorrow, 11 a.m. We'll talk about stuff. We don't really know. We don't have a plan yet. But it's going to be great. We promise.
We're doing the He Who Shall Not Be Named theory. We'll worry about it tomorrow.
We'll get to tomorrow's show
worry
tomorrow.
about tomorrow's show tomorrow.
Yes.
Well, it's usually if we're resetting our weekly segment dealios, we can do Top Shelf Tuesday and find something fun to do.
All right.
We'll figure it out. We have 23 hours to work it out. And Matthew Cook, thank you for the comment. You guys are the best. Can't tell you how much I look forward to you guys every day. We look forward to doing it every day for you guys.
To you,
so
Matthew.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll talk to you Tuesday at 11 on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast.